Hey, it's Jeff from Everything Plants. Welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing for more houseplant-based video content. This rather large plant beside me here is called the Pilea Pepermioides. It's a tough one to say. I've had this one for about 2 years now, and it's about 2 feet tall. When I bought it, it was just a small little cutting, and at that time, they were pretty, I guess, rare around here. You didn't find them very often in the nurseries and plant stores, but now they're actually quite common and still pretty popular amongst the houseplant community. One of the things that obviously draws people to this plant is just how unique it is. The kind of round saucer-like leaves, very similar to what you would find on an actual peperomia, but this is a little bit different of a plant species. This one is an extremely low maintenance plant, very easy to care for. And in this video, I just want to give some basic care tips on how to take care of this plant, make sure it thrives and grows, show you how to propagate it, and then I'm going to repot it in a little bit of a larger pot as it's kind of outgrown this smaller dollar store pot. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is light requirements for this plant. I have mine about 5 to 6 feet back and just off to the side a little bit from a south-facing window. It does really well in this area. It might get a little bit of direct sunlight kind of in the later afternoon, but nothing intense enough where it's going to burn the leaves. I've never had any issues. Just be careful where you place it, just so it doesn't burn the leaves. One important thing that I do basically every few days is just kind of rotate the plant. I don't know if you can see it here or not, but if you leave it kind of facing one side or one side facing the sun for too long, it tends to get a little bit of a curve in the stem here. So I do have mine staked up right now, just as support. I was kind of leaning over to the side a little bit, but just every few days, just kind of rotate it, and that way it gives kind of an even appearance to the leaves as well, so they're not all kind of facing towards the sun. So the one thing that makes this a low maintenance plant, in my opinion, is its watering needs, or I guess lack of watering needs. I have been kind of neglecting this plant for quite some time. I've been letting the soil dry out probably a little bit too much, and it still does really well. Probably one of the first things you'll notice are kind of the lower leaves on the main stem get a little droopy like they are now. I did give it a bit of water yesterday, knowing that I wanted to repot it for today. So once I repot, I'm going to give it a good thorough soaking. I find that this one actually dries out pretty fast as well, and I think that's because it does need to be repotted. So if you're finding that you're watering it too often, it probably needs to be repotted. So that's probably one of the #1 things when these plants tend to start to decline, or when leaves aren't looking healthy anymore, is when people overwater it. So just make sure that you let this dry out, and like I said, I let mine dry out completely. It doesn't sit in any kind of moisture wet soil for very long. When I first bought it, I really liked this plant, and I took I paid a lot of attention to it, and as it started to grow, I didn't really care for it anymore, so I kind of just neglected it. I left it alone, and it seemed to do better. It just started to thrive and get a whole bunch more new growth, and didn't really care for it. So, but now as it's grown kind of into this larger tree structure, I've actually quite enjoyed it in the last few months here. So now I'm actually going to start taking care of it. So we'll get it in a different pot, and we'll see if that kind of cuts down on the watering. So the soil mix I'm using today is just a combination of tropical mix, some cactus soil, some extra added perlite. The reason why I'm using that is I just had some extra soil laying around. It doesn't have to be anything fancy for this mixture, just something that is really kind of well draining and doesn't hold on or retain moisture for too long, as it can lead to root rot. So nothing fancy for this. If you just have some regular old potting mix, just add some extra perlite in there for drainage, and just something where it's rather light and drains very well. The fertilizer that I use for this plant and most of my house plants is Miracle-Gro's water-soluble granular fertilizer. It's a balanced 20-20-20. I will fertilize this basically in its growing season of spring and summer, maybe once or twice a month. If it is still actively growing or pushing out new leaves in the fall and winter, you can still fertilize it. Give it the nutrients that it needs. Sometimes you will notice maybe yellowing of leaves. I don't know if you can see like this one. That can be a sign that it needs to be fertilized. If you're fertilizing it, or if I am fertilizing it in the fall and winter months, I might cut this dosage, the recommended dosage, in half, just so it doesn't over fertilize it and burn the roots. So that's pretty much it for fertilizer. For house humidity, just regular standard house humidity is fine with this plant. I try and keep my house probably around that 40 to 45, and it does extremely well. Sometimes I know with some house plants they will curl if they aren't getting enough humidity, or if they're being over or underwatered. So just kind of watch for some leaf issues and try and diagnose it from that, as it can be quite difficult sometimes. But like I said, pretty easy houseplant to care for, and yeah, not much to it. Just give it some water, fertilizer, lots of sun, and you're pretty well good to go with this one. Okay, so I'm gonna take this plant out of the pot. I've already loosened it up. So again, like my last, or a couple of videos ago, what plant was it? I pulled out a plant by the stem here. Not recommended, as it can damage the roots, but I've already loosened it up. So let's just pull it out of the pot and set that off to the side. So definitely needs to be repotted, and I'll show you, like I said, the 2 ways on propagating this plant. So the first way is to actually just either remove or cut off one of these leaves, and you simply just place the end in water. You can put it in some rooting hormone if you like. I've never done this method. I will probably be doing it down the road. I'm just curious to see for myself how it works, but you can just propagate it from the leaf and the stem just directly in water. The second way is actually by plant division. You can see these little stems. I don't know if you can see from the bottom or if it comes out or not, but these stems originate from the main, I guess, portion of the plant. It sends out a shoot kind of laterally, and then it comes up out of the soil, and it starts itself into a new plant, like this one over here too. Basically just a little side shoot, and then it sprouts up out of the soil just a little bit off to the side of the plant. And you can see there's a number of these little shoots that come off to the side, and I'll show you how to, this one actually just fell right off. Okay, so now that this one just fell off, it was a pretty delicate root. This is how you propagate them, by division. So there's the leaf method, and then this is the division method. You can place this in water, but I think I'm just going to place it right back in the soil when I plant this one into the new pot. And then it should start to grow into its own new plant, and it will eventually push out some more side shoots and some more little, I guess, new growths or babies, pups, whatever you want to call them. Pretty easy to propagate. So the first thing I want to do when repotting this is I'm just going to size it up just to see how much dirt I need in the bottom. Probably about 1 inch or 2. I'm just going to leave the kind of root ball intact. Whenever you do repot a plant, you do want to go up basically 1 pot size. So I think this is probably like a 6-inch pot, and this one I do believe is about an 8-inch. So you just want to go basically 1 size larger, and that way it has the ability for the roots to just kind of expand and grow. I'm going to put this other one back in here too. I gotta find a spot for it. So just gonna go around the pot, just fill it all in, just kind of lightly packing it down as I go. And then I'll be putting it back in kind of its location near the south window there. Get it lots of sun, give it some water here too, and I might actually hold off on the fertilizer, as the new soil here, most commercial fertilizers have plant food or fertilizer in it, and it says it can feed the plant up to 3 months. So I'm not going to add any extra because I don't want to burn the roots or anything like that. So this plant is kind of leaning. Another good thing for the use of the pencil is just to, I like to kind of poke all the soil down. That way it fills in any air gaps just around the pot. That way it seats it properly, making sure you don't damage any of the leaves or anything like that. But so the last thing I'm going to do, just to kind of finish up this little project, is just make a hole in the soil, and I'm going to place the little cutting that fell off or broke off. I'm just going to put that right back in the soil. I would probably be more inclined to water propagate this, just so that it does have, I guess, root growth before putting it back in soil. It did not have any roots on this little cutting, but I'm hoping that it will kind of sprout on its own and then start its own new plant. Okay, I finished putting it in its new pot with some fresh soil. I did forget to mention one thing in regards to the leaves earlier in the video. If you do notice one or two leaves fall off or break off from the lower portion of the stem, that's pretty common, pretty normal for most plants to lose some of the lower leaves. The only way I would be concerned is if you've kind of got massive leaf drop, or if some of them were kind of black or brown spots, and just overall it didn't look healthy. But if you get one or two leaves that just kind of fall off, don't be concerned. As it does continue to grow. I am letting these little pups or these little babies grow so that it kind of fills in the lower portion of the pot. So that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions about this video, or if you liked it, if you didn't, please let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Appreciate the support as always. Take care. Bye.